My friend, success is not the product of chance. It is the outcome of deliberate action, repeated daily until it becomes part of one's very nature. Tonight, I will share with you a simple but powerful practice that the top 1% use before they close their eyes to rest. This bedtime ritual is not complicated, yet it separates the average from the exceptional. Let us uncover these 13 principles hidden within this nightly trick. Each night before closing their eyes, the successful make it their duty to empty the mind of all useless noise. They refuse to carry the weight of confusion, anger, or unresolved tension into the darkness of sleep. Instead, they strip the mind clean as a craftsman sharpens his tools, knowing that a cluttered mind cannot create a clear tomorrow. By entering rest with clarity, they rise with direction. While others wake up, still entangled in yesterday's burdens, they reflect upon the day with a spirit of honesty. Not in self-condemnation, but in truth, they ask themselves whether their time was used wisely, whether their words built or destroyed, whether their actions pushed them closer to their vision. In this quiet review, they take inventory of victories and failures alike. Nothing is ignored, for they understand that success demands awareness, and awareness sharpens purpose. The smallest triumphs are celebrated, for they know that progress is often made in inches before it is seen in miles. Gratitude for the smallest step builds momentum, and momentum is the secret power behind great achievement. Even when mistakes are made, they are not discarded as wasted effort. Instead, they are dissected, studied, and transformed into lessons. The great ones see no failure as final, but as instruction given by life itself to refine their approach. Before sleep takes hold, they command their subconscious by setting tomorrow's intention. A clear goal is written, a task is chosen, and a vision of success is planted deep within the mind. They imagine themselves already achieving it, already standing victorious in the picture they hold within. This practice magnetizes the dream, and the subconscious, like an untiring servant, begins working on solutions long before the body awakens. They also free themselves of emotional chains before rest. Resentment, anger, and bitterness are left behind, for they know such weights only poison the well of the mind. Forgiveness is not weakness, but wisdom, and in this release, they create room for gratitude to fill the heart. They end the day feeding the mind with noble thoughts, reading or listening to ideas that elevate the spirit rather than degrade it, so that the final impression upon the mind before sleep is one of strength, vision, and light. And finally, they approach sleep itself with purpose. It is not an escape, nor a careless drift into unconsciousness, but a sacred act of restoration. They rest knowing that their body is being renewed and their subconscious is at work shaping the future. The real secret, however, lies in consistency. They repeat this ritual night after night until it becomes inseparable from their identity. And by doing so, they rise each morning with a sharpened mind, a grateful spirit, and a focused vision, forever staying one step ahead of the world. When the day comes to its close, those who rise above the masses do not let their hours slip into forgetfulness. They take a few quiet moments to look back with a mirror of truth and ask themselves important questions. Did I grow today? Did I use my time with wisdom? Or did I squander it on things that hold no value? Did I move one step closer to the vision that stirs within me, or did I drift further away? This nightly reflection is not a ritual of self-criticism, but a discipline of awareness, for only through awareness can one refine the path ahead. It is in this honest accounting that the spirit is sharpened, the will is fortified, and the direction for tomorrow is made clearer. In this stillness, they recognize the power of the smallest victories, for success is rarely born in giant leaps but in steady footsteps. To smile in the face of difficulty, to complete a single meaningful task, to choose discipline over distraction. These are victories worth acknowledging. By celebrating them, they build momentum, and momentum creates a force that multiplies effort and shortens the distance to great achievement. At the same time, they are unafraid to confront mistakes. Failures are not buried but studied, for each error holds a lesson, and each setback is a quiet teacher pointing toward a better way forward. With these lessons in hand, they plant seeds for tomorrow. They write down the goals they intend to conquer, shaping their mind to serve their vision. They do not wait for the morning to decide what matters. They decide in advance, knowing that intention is the compass of achievement. As they drift toward rest, they see the picture of their dream already fulfilled, imagining the victory with such clarity that it begins to feel inevitable. This act of visualization charges their subconscious with the duty of creating solutions, and while they sleep, their mind works without pause, aligning thought and opportunity. They also cleanse their hearts of heavy emotions before surrendering to rest. Resentment, anger, and bitterness are released, not because the other deserves forgiveness, but because they themselves deserve peace. Carrying such weight into the night would only block the flow of inspiration and drain the energy needed for the tasks ahead. In this release, they discover freedom, and into that space flows gratitude. Gratitude not only for the triumphs, but also for the trials, for each experience contributes to the shaping of their destiny. Before the body yields to slumber, they make certain that the last impression upon the mind is noble. They feed it with wisdom, words of strength, ideas of greatness, and principles that lift the soul. They know that the final thoughts that enter the mind before sleep linger the longest in the subconscious. By guarding this doorway, they ensure that their inner world is filled with images that build, not destroy, inspire, not weaken. This nightly nourishment becomes the quiet architect of their character. And when at last they close their eyes, it is not with carelessness, but with intention. Sleep is embraced as a tool of renewal, not an escape from living. They rest deeply, knowing their body is restoring itself, and their subconscious is weaving together the blueprint of their tomorrow. The true secret lies not in doing this once, but in doing it without fail. Through repetition, this ritual becomes part of their very being. Each morning they rise not by chance, but by design, clear in mind, strong in spirit, and prepared to move further ahead, while the rest of the world still wonders why they never seem to catch up. Every achievement, no matter how small, is given its place of honor, because the wise know that greatness is not built in sudden leaps, but in steady progress. The smallest completed task, the simplest step forward, the quiet act of discipline, all are recognized as bricks in the foundation of success. Gratitude is what gives these small victories their power. By appreciating them, the mind gathers energy, the spirit gains confidence, and momentum begins to form. And momentum, once it builds, becomes an unstoppable force, carrying a person forward with a strength that others cannot see but can only marvel at. In the same way, mistakes are not pushed aside or forgotten, but studied and transformed into valuable lessons. Where the average person sees failure as the end, the successful see it as instruction, a message written in bold letters by life itself. Each setback whispers a secret, each error provides direction, and through this process the individual becomes wiser and stronger. Failures become stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks, and what once seemed like defeat becomes the very material out of which success is built. But gratitude does more than just strengthen resolve, it reshapes the way the mind sees the future. A person who ends the day in gratitude commands their subconscious to focus on abundance rather than lack. This gratitude fuels vision, it sharpens faith, and it multiplies confidence. The one who gives thanks for even the smallest progress begins to expect greater progress, and expectation is a magnet that pulls opportunity closer. It is this state of appreciation that transforms ordinary nights into fertile ground for extraordinary dreams. Momentum born from gratitude also changes how energy flows. Instead of draining themselves with regret, worry, or bitterness, the successful release those emotions and replace them with thankfulness. Gratitude clears the path for inspiration. It removes the heaviness of anger, and it dissolves the chains of resentment. In this lighter state, the mind becomes free to imagine, to create, and to attract solutions. Gratitude does not simply make a person feel good, it positions them to receive more, to act with clarity, and to walk into the future with steady confidence. Thus, by acknowledging every victory, no matter how minor, and giving thanks for it, the successful create a cycle that few understand. Gratitude fuels momentum, momentum fuels confidence, and confidence fuels achievement. This cycle, repeated night after night, builds not just progress, but power. And it is this power, born in simple moments of appreciation, that quietly builds empires while the world wonders how such greatness was achieved. The great achievers never turn away from their failures. Where most people see defeat and stop, they lean closer, studying it as one would study a valuable text. They do not bury their errors in shame, nor do they allow regret to consume them. Instead, they search for the hidden meaning behind the mistake, convinced that within it lies a message that will sharpen their future steps. To them, every failure is a teacher, every misstep a lesson in disguise. When they stumble, they refuse to view the moment as wasted time. Rather, they consider it an investment in wisdom, a price paid to gain knowledge that cannot be bought in books or borrowed from another's experience. Failures reveal blind spots, weaknesses, and untested strategies, and by facing them directly, the successful transform what once held them back into the very thing that propels them forward. The average person fears mistakes, but the uncommon person embraces them as companions along the road to mastery. Each setback, no matter how painful, becomes a stepping stone. The 1% know that progress is rarely smooth. It is filled with sharp turns, dead ends, and trials. but they also know that the greater the obstacle, the greater the growth hidden within it. This perspective allows them to rise each time they fall with stronger character, clearer vision, and greater resilience. They turn their scars into reminders of strength and their struggles into blueprints for victory. They train their minds to ask better questions. When failure strikes, what lesson is hidden here? What strength must I develop now? What must I change in my approach? By doing this, they do not repeat the same mistakes over and over. Instead, they refine, adjust, and advance. Life becomes less about avoiding hardship and more about transforming hardship into opportunity. Their failures become chapters of preparation, equipping them for the success that is destined to come. In the end, it is not the absence of failure that defines greatness, but the ability to use failure as fuel. The majority hide from mistakes, but the 1% and welcome them, knowing they are signs of movement, of daring, of growth. And in this willingness to study what others ignore, they gain insights no competitor can copy. Each failure becomes a quiet ally, whispering secrets of progress, guiding them steadily to the heights where only the persistent are found. Before the successful drift into sleep, they make a deliberate choice to set their direction for the coming day. They do not leave tomorrow to chance or to the distractions that will inevitably arise. Instead, they write down their top goals with clarity, reducing the vague into the specific. This simple act is more than planning. It is an instruction given to the mind, a declaration that tomorrow will not be wasted on trivial pursuits. By placing their focus on what truly matters, they begin the next day already prepared, already one step ahead of those who wake without a plan. The subconscious mind is a powerful servant, and when it is given orders, it obeys. By writing down their goals, the successful send those orders deep into the mind just before it drifts into its most creative state. During sleep, the subconscious works tirelessly, connecting ideas, forming solutions, and aligning thoughts that would otherwise remain scattered. When morning comes, the person awakes not only refreshed, but with a mind that has already been working on the tasks at hand. While others wake to confusion, they wake with quiet clarity. This practice transforms the way a person views their time. Instead of moving aimlessly through the hours, they rise with purpose, already knowing which steps to take. Distractions lose their power because the mind has been anchored to a clear intention. Decisions that would normally cause hesitation become easier because the path has been chosen the night before. The individual is no longer reacting to life but directing it, and this shift alone creates a tremendous advantage. Over time, the ritual of setting goals before bed builds discipline and consistency. Each night, the mind is trained to focus on progress, and each morning, that focus is reinforced by action. The small victories that follow each day compound, just as drops of water carve stone through persistence. It is this steady compounding of directed effort that separates the 1% from the rest, for while most people rely on chance inspiration, the successful rely on deliberate intention. In truth, the power of this habit lies not in the writing itself, but in the command it gives to the mind. To close the day with a vision of tomorrow is to live with foresight rather than blindness. It ensures that sleep becomes more than rest. It becomes a workshop of ideas, a silent partner in achievement. By the time the morning sun rises, the individual is not starting from zero, but continuing a process already in motion. And that is how they stay ahead, by planning today for tomorrow's triumphs while the rest of the world sleeps without direction. The most successful understand that the mind cannot distinguish between imagination vividly felt and reality already lived. Before they sleep, they close their eyes and see the picture of their desired life as though it were unfolding before them in the present moment. They walk through the details of the dream, the sights, the sounds, the emotions, until it feels real within them. By doing so, they are not wishing, they are creating, for the mind responds to what is impressed upon it with persistence and intensity. This nightly visualization is not idle fantasy, but a tool of power. When they see the victory already won, the goal already achieved, the subconscious begins to move in that direction. It takes the image given to it and works tirelessly to bridge the gap between thought and reality. Just as a magnet pulls metal toward itself, the mental picture pulls resources, ideas, and opportunities into the life of the dreamer. What begins as imagination soon translates into action, and what is consistently imagined becomes inevitable. By living the dream inwardly before it manifests outwardly, they condition their emotions to match the success they seek. This is more than thinking, it is feeling. They generate the sense of confidence, gratitude, and triumph that would accompany the achievement. These emotions fuel motivation and anchor belief, making doubt weaker and persistence stronger. In this way, the inner experience becomes a rehearsal for the outer reality, preparing the spirit to embrace the success when it finally arrives. Through this practice, obstacles lose much of their power. The individual who sees the end result clearly is less shaken by temporary setbacks because they already know how the story concludes. Instead of being discouraged by difficulties, they treat them as passing chapters on the way to a certain ending. The clarity of vision becomes a shield against fear and a light that guides their steps, even in the darkest seasons. Those who hold their dream this vividly cannot be easily swayed, for their mind has already accepted the outcome as truth. Over time, this nightly ritual of visualization transforms the person. They no longer wait for the world to show them what is possible. They show the world what they have already claimed within. Each morning they rise with a renewed sense of direction because they fell asleep the night before already living their destiny in their imagination. It is this practice of seeing, feeling, and believing in advance that keeps them ahead of the masses, for while most people drift into sleep with random thoughts, the 1% drift into sleep rehearsing greatness. The hours of sleep are often thought of as empty, but the most successful know they are rich with hidden potential. They understand that when the body rests, the mind does not stop, it continues to work, to process, to build. Before surrendering to the night, they feed their thoughts with words of power, affirmations of strength, and reminders of their purpose. This is not idle repetition, but deliberate planting of seeds, knowing that the subconscious accepts whatever is impressed upon it and works in silence to bring it forth. By choosing their final thoughts wisely, they decide what their inner world will focus on throughout the night. If they fill their minds with fear, worry, or doubt, those seeds will grow into hesitation and confusion. But if they fill it with conviction, confidence, and vision, then their subconscious becomes a workshop of solutions, tirelessly laboring in the background while they sleep. What others dismiss as simple words, the wise see as commands to the mind, instructions that direct it to serve rather than sabotage. This practice shapes their mornings in ways unseen. They awaken not just refreshed but prepared, often with new ideas, clearer answers, or sudden insights that seem to come from nowhere. In truth, these insights are the fruit of the seeds planted the night before. The subconscious, unburdened by the noise of daily life, has been free to weave connections and find paths that the conscious mind could not grasp. What seems like inspiration is in reality the result of deliberate conditioning. Night after night, the ritual strengthens their belief. Each affirmation spoken with conviction sinks deeper into the soil of the mind until it takes root and becomes part of their identity. They begin to have alignment with the truths they have impressed upon themselves. If they affirm courage, they walk boldly. If they affirm wisdom, they begin to make wiser decisions. The subconscious does not argue or question. It accepts and creates according to what it is fed. This is why the 1% guard their last thoughts so carefully. Over time, this consistent sowing produces a harvest of results. Success becomes less of a struggle and more of a natural unfolding because their subconscious has been programmed to work for them, not against them. The hours of rest, which most waste without thought, become powerful allies. By turning sleep into a season of silent creation, they ensure that even in slumber, they are moving closer to their destiny. This is how they stay ahead, by making every hour, even the hours unseen, serve their highest purpose. The great achievers know that carrying resentment into the night is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. Before they let sleep take them, they make the conscious choice to release the bitterness that would otherwise harden the heart and cloud the mind. They understand that anger, jealousy, and grudges are weights that keep a person from rising, and so they refuse to sleep with such chains still fastened. Forgiveness for them is not an act of activeness, but of wisdom, a decision to clear the path so opportunity can flow without obstruction. By forgiving before sleep, they free themselves from the exhausting grip of negative emotions. These emotions drain energy, steal clarity, and keep the mind restless. But when the spirit is light, rest becomes deeper and more renewing. The subconscious, unburdened by conflict, is free to work creatively, bringing solutions and inspiration instead of replaying arguments or regrets. The one who releases resentment rests better and wakes with more strength than the one who clings to it. This practice also sharpens focus. A mind cluttered with grudges cannot fully devote itself to progress, for part of its energy is trapped in reliving the past. By letting go, achievers reclaim energy and direct it toward building their vision. They understand that every ounce of strength must serve their future, not their anger. In this way, forgiveness becomes a strategy of power, turning potential distractions into renewed determination. Forgiveness also elevates character. The successful do not measure themselves by the wrongs done to them, but by the dignity with which they rise above them. When they forgive, they refuse to let another's actions dictate their state of mind. They choose freedom over bitterness, peace over turmoil. This strength of spirit becomes a silent advantage, for a person who cannot be easily offended cannot be easily controlled. Their power lies in mastering themselves, and forgiveness is one of the highest forms of mastery. As this ritual is repeated night after night, it becomes part of their very nature. They go to bed unshackled and wake up renewed, ready to meet the world with fresh energy and clear vision. While others waste their nights replaying old wounds, the 1% use theirs to rise higher, to heal faster, and to build stronger. And because they never allow resentment to take root, they move through life lighter, freer, and always a step ahead of those still chained to anger. Before surrendering to the stillness of the night, the successful quiet their hearts with a simple but powerful act. They give thanks, not just for the large victories that the world can see, but for the unseen blessings that often go unnoticed. They whisper gratitude for breath in their lungs, for strength in their bodies, for opportunities that have yet to unfold. This attitude transforms ordinary moments into treasures, for when one is grateful, even the smallest gift becomes a source of joy. In this nightly habit, they recognize that gratitude is not about ignoring challenges, but about seeing beyond them. Life will always bring trials, yet the grateful heart does not dwell on lack or limitation. Instead, it searches for what is working, for what can still be built upon, for what has already been given. By doing so, they rise above the weight of discouragement. They refuse to go to sleep in the shadow of fear and instead rest in the light of appreciation. Gratitude, repeated night after night, works silently on the subconscious. It trains the mind to expect abundance, to look for opportunities rather than obstacles. The subconscious becomes aligned with the idea that life is generous, and this expectation changes everything. A grateful person wakes with a lighter spirit, a stronger will, and a clearer perspective. Their eyes begin to notice chances others overlook, and their heart becomes magnetic, drawing into their lives the very things they give thanks for. It is through this habit that wealth, health, and joy multiply. Those who complain before sleep program their minds to look for problems, and they wake up weighed down by them. But those who give thanks before rest awaken to new strength, as if life itself honors the attitude they chose. What begins as a whispered prayer of appreciation becomes a force that shapes their destiny. The law of increase works through gratitude, multiplying what is acknowledged, and the successful know this truth well. This practice also protects the spirit from envy, greed, and dissatisfaction. Gratitude brings contentment without killing ambition. The grateful person does not stop striving, rather, they strive with joy instead of desperation. They understand that being thankful for what is in their hands today prepares them to receive more tomorrow. Their ambition is purified by appreciation, and their journey becomes lighter because they do not walk under the burden of not enough. Night after night, they cultivate the state of thankfulness until it becomes a natural part of who they are. Gratitude ceases to be a ritual and becomes their way of living, both in wakefulness and in rest. And because they train their hearts to focus on abundance, their lives expand to reflect it. While the majority fall asleep with worry, resentment, or dissatisfaction, the 1% fall asleep with gratitude and wake to a life filled with more to be grateful for. The highest achievers understand that the final moments before sleep are sacred, and they treat them with care. Instead of flooding their minds with idle distractions, meaningless chatter, or empty entertainment, they choose to end their day with wisdom. They turn to books, speeches, or words that lift the mind, inspire the spirit, and challenge the intellect. In doing so, they ensure that the very last thoughts impressed upon their subconscious are not shallow or trivial, but powerful and worthy of shaping their destiny. They know that the subconscious mind is like fertile soil, ready to receive whatever seed is planted before rest. If one feeds it negativity or foolishness, that is what will take root. But if one feeds it noble thoughts, ideas of strength, wealth, faith, and perseverance, then the subconscious will spend the night working to expand those seeds into reality. This is why the successful are so intentional about what they expose themselves to before they close their eyes. They would never waste such a valuable opportunity. This practice also sets them apart in character and discipline. While most people spend their last waking moments scrolling, complaining, or drowning in entertainment, the 1% sharpen their vision and reinforce their values. They choose material that stirs greatness within them, reminding themselves of who they are becoming. A few pages of a timeless book, a lesson from a great mind, or a speech that breathes courage into the soul is enough to elevate the tone of the night. What others see as a small habit, they see as a doorway to transformation. By consuming wisdom at night, they also prepare themselves for action in the morning. Inspiration does not fade during sleep, it carries over, becoming the mood and energy with which they begin the day. The words of power that entered their mind at night echo within them as they rise, shaping their decisions and strengthening their discipline. Where others wake groggy and unfocused, they wake already tuned to a higher frequency because they fed their mind with greatness the night before. Over time, this discipline accumulates. Each evening spent with wisdom adds another layer of strength, another degree of clarity, another measure of resolve. Just as the body grows strong from consistent nourishment, the mind grows powerful when it is daily fed with knowledge and vision. This advantage compounds quietly, unnoticed by the world, until the gap between the one who feeds on wisdom and the one who feeds on noise becomes undeniable. One rises to lead while the other remains distracted. Thus, the bedtime ritual of filling the mind with noble thoughts is far more than reading or listening. It is an act of self-mastery. It is the conscious decision to guard the gates of the mind and decide what will shape tomorrow. And while the masses treat the night as an escape from their struggles, the successful treat it as an opportunity to plant higher truths. This is how they stay ahead, by letting wisdom be the last voice they hear, and by allowing that wisdom to echo through their dreams, their mornings, and ultimately their lives. The ones who rise to the top understand that worry is a thief. It robs the mind of clarity, the heart of peace, and the body of strength. They know that to go to bed consumed by fear is to hand over their most valuable energy to an enemy that produces nothing in return. Instead of rehearsing problems in their mind, they train themselves to shift their focus to possibility. They refuse to let the night become a stage for anxious thoughts, because they understand that worry changes nothing, while faith transforms everything. When challenges appear heavy, they remind themselves that within every difficulty lies the seed of its solution. No obstacle is without an answer, no trial without a hidden gift. This belief allows them to rest in confidence, knowing that the very problem pressing on them carries within it the means of its own defeat. With this perspective, they do not fear setbacks, they welcome them as opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. Where most people see dead ends, they see beginnings. The habit of replacing fear with faith becomes their shield. Faith is not blind hope. It is the assurance that tomorrow can be shaped by their actions, that effort and persistence will uncover a way forward. By holding to faith, they quiet the noise of doubt that tries to paralyze the spirit. They remind themselves that history belongs to those who act with courage, not those who surrender to fear. And so, even as they close their eyes, they hold to the conviction that life is working for them, not against them. This mindset prepares them for deeper rest. Worry keeps the body restless and the mind unsettled, but faith allows both to release tension and recharge fully. The successful know that they cannot afford to drain their strength on imaginary outcomes that may never arrive. They choose to conserve their energy, to protect their peace, and to rise with fresh vision in the morning. Faith becomes not a comfort, but a strategy, an intelligent choice to guard their most valuable resource, their energy. Over time, this habit shapes their entire character. They become known not as people who panic in the face of problems, but as people who stand steady when others crumble. Their calmness attracts trust, their confidence inspires others, and their belief in solutions draws solutions closer. It is not that they face fewer problems than the rest of the world. It is that they have trained themselves to respond differently, to replace worry with wisdom and fear with faith. And so each night, while countless others toss and turn under the weight of anxious thoughts, the 1% sleep peacefully because they have mastered the art of shifting their perspective. They see every problem as a seed, every seed as a solution, and every solution as a step closer to destiny. This quiet discipline gives them an invisible edge. While the world wakes tired from wrestling with worry, they rise renewed, ready, and already ahead. The most successful do not see sleep as an escape from the world, but as a tool to sharpen their place within it. They understand that true achievement demands energy, clarity, and renewal, and all of these are birthed in the hours of rest. To them, sleep is not a careless drift into unconsciousness, but a deliberate act of preparation. They approach it with the same seriousness that others might reserve for work, because they know that the quality of their rest shapes the quality of their tomorrow. They recognize that exhaustion is a silent enemy. A tired body cannot sustain discipline, and a weary mind cannot create solutions. That is why the havers protect their sleep as they would their most valuable possession. They set boundaries, they disconnect from noise, and they enter the night with intention. They do not abuse their bodies with endless distractions or sacrifice their rest for trivialities. Instead, they honor the fact that without restoration, their vision will blur and their actions will weaken. For them, the night is not wasted time, but a sacred season of renewal. Muscles repair, energy is restored, and the mind, free from constant demands, begins to process and organize. Ideas that seem tangled by day become clear by morning because rest has untied the knots. In sleep, they recover not only strength, but perspective, awakening with sharper focus and steadier determination. This process is not accidental. It is the very reason they value rest so highly. The 1% also understand that deep rest requires peace of mind. This is why they release anger, practice gratitude, and feed their minds with wisdom before closing their eyes. They prepare the soil so that the night may bear fruit. When they sleep deeply without the restless tossing that plagues those who carry worry into bed. Their bodies restore fully, their minds dream productively, and their spirit rises lighter. Each morning they emerge as though renewed, ready to command the day. This approach is not laziness, but strategy. The masses often confuse endless labor with productivity, but the successful know better. They work when it is time to work, and they rest when it is time to rest, treating both with equal importance. Balance creates longevity, and longevity allows them to keep advancing while others burn out. By mastering rest, they gain the endurance to keep climbing long after the undisciplined have fallen behind. Over time, this disciplined respect for sleep becomes one of their greatest advantages. While others treat it as wasted hours, they treat it as investment. They rise with more clarity, more energy, and more focus, ready to face each day as if it were another step toward destiny. It is in this rhythm, work with purpose, rest with purpose, that the great separate themselves from the ordinary. And it is why they continue to stay ahead while the rest struggle to catch up. And so, my friends, the bedtime trick of the 1% is not merely about sleep. It is about commanding the night to prepare the day. It is about closing your eyes not in exhaustion, but in purpose. Those who master this practice rise each morning ahead of the world, for while others sleep carelessly, they dream deliberately.